Hello my devilish darlings, it's Stu here, and on this channel we discuss 21st century Satanism for boils, ghouls, and dirty, dirty queers. Today, you think you know what Satanism is, but unless the word religion crosses your lips, then I'm afraid you're mistaken, sweetie darling. A lot of Satanists start with, we don't eat babies, and we don't sacrifice people, blah 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 blah. Most people know this is the stuff of Hollywood. What they really think is that we're a bunch of childish teenage goths who really need to grow up and stop buying tacky made-in-China goth crap from Killstar. Satanism is what we call a non-theistic religion, and this is not a new idea, my darlings, no! So Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism all have variations of non-theism that you've probably never heard of. So there's always some smart-ass going, I think you'll find that if you look it up in the dictionary, religion is defined as believing in God or gods. Which is true. But alas, all they are proving is that, in spite of the English inventing the earliest English dictionaries, we still don't know how to bloody use one. This is particularly relevant right now due to a plague we're currently experiencing in my country. No, not coronavirus, silly. TERFs. Trans-exclusionary radical feminists. Here in the United TERFdom, there are TERFs who are so confident that the dictionary definition of woman proves that trans women aren't women that they put it up on billboards as a kind of transphobe bat signal. Let's ask John Simpson, shall we? He was chief editor of the Oxford English Dictionary from 1993 to 2013.
And that we don't regard ourselves as an authority.
I'm sorry. Oh, what was that, John?
We don't regard ourselves as telling people how they should speak the language.
But then what is a dictionary, John?
A word like culture, for example, which starts off meaning the cultivation of soil in the Middle Ages. A little bit later, when you get into the early modern period, it starts meaning the cultivation of plants and crops, then breeding animals, and then rearing biological cultures. And then the refinement of the mind, culture, that sort of culture. Latest of all, national culture that you have.
You mean definitions can change? Gasp! So maybe you're sceptical. Maybe you think this turns religion into a rather nebulous concept. Why isn't my local sports club a religion? Why aren't political parties a religion then? So I present to you now my 5 objective criteria for why I think Satanism qualifies as a religion. Community, deeply held beliefs, philosophy, iconography, and ritual. So let's start off with the silly suggestions because you are going to get some dickheads coming to you and suggesting these things. Tennis club. Is it a religion? I know, but look, there are going to be fucking idiots who come to you and say stupid things like this, so let's just prepare ourselves for stupid questions, because trust me, when you're a Satanist, you get lots of stupid questions. Be prepared with the answers, because if you don't immediately answer on the spot imperfect, they go, aha, see, I was right, you know. First of all, community. Well, there is a tennis community. You go down to your local club, and if you're a professional sports player, then, you know, I'm sure they all know each other, and I'm sure, okay, so tennis, we can give them community at least. Deeply held beliefs. No, I'm not willing to accept that tennis players have deeply held beliefs about tennis. I mean, you know, I believe in the ball. Philosophy. Tennis philosophy. Tennis philosophy. Oh, it's a thing. All right, I'll give you that. Iconography. No, I'm not giving you iconography. So what is iconography? Iconography is kind of, you know, well, let's... Do you know what we should do to define iconography? We should look it up in the dictionary. I do plan these videos, I promise. I do plan them. This was an unscripted moment. Look, okay, I'm not saying you can't ever use a dictionary. Let's inject a little bit of nuance. I know this is the fucking internet, so nuance, you know, is just not a thing. Dictionaries are useful to a certain extent. I'm just saying that they are not immutable. Definitions are not immutable. They are useful to an extent as a kind of initial guide, but you shouldn't rely on them entirely. You know, looking something in the dictionary should be the start of your journey, not the end of the journey, and they are not, as John Simpson says, they are not an authority, okay? I mean, I do know what iconography means, okay? Right, iconography, the visual images and symbols used in a work of art or the study or interpretation of these. Let's say you're going to paint a picture of tennis. You know, what would you do? I mean, you'd do like... a racket, some balls. Religions are absolutely just dripping with iconography. You know, I think we could all agree that tennis is not a rich well of iconography or art or anything like that. It literally would just be someone standing on a court holding a racket going, "Meh." Number 5, ritual. Now, interestingly, professional sports players, one of the most important things for them is to kind of get in the zone. So you hear a lot of sports players saying, "Oh, you know, I switch off my phone for an hour or two before the game because there's nothing more off-putting than a million messages going, 'Good luck, hope you don't fuck it up.'" Sort of imagine like a professional sports player doing a certain kind of, you know, doing a certain routine of things to kind of get themselves into the zone, get themselves ready for play. 3 out of 5. Sorry, tennis. You're not a religion. So, now the big one, is Satanism a religion? I think you know what I'm going to say, but anyway, let's just go ahead with this anyway. There is such a thing as theistic Satanism. There is a minority of Satanists who identify as theistic Satanists. They actually believe in the devil, but they're a real minority of Satanists. I mean, if you encounter someone who calls themselves a Satanist, chances are that they're non-theistic. And also, it's pretty likely that they're either with Church of Satan or Satanic Temple, or at least identify with these two groups. And the thing with these two main organizations is that so they don't agree on very much. What they can agree is that they're both very different from each other. In terms of their qualification for being religions, absolutely. You know, they both do qualify for as religions, and here's why.
The Satanic Temple are just a bunch of political activists. Hush, hush, hush.
Some satanic orgs place a very big emphasis on community, whereas others are much more individualistic and much more atomized. One of the many areas where Church of Satan and Satanic Temple differ is on community. Satanic Temple places a very big emphasis on community building, whereas Church of Satan is inherently anti-community. They say here that Satanists are such a broad spectrum of individuals, it would be an exercise in futility trying to build some kind of community. They did have something called the grotto system, but they described these as temporary constructs for a time before the internet, when it was prudent to facilitate gatherings around a particular interest, and that now that online communication is possible, they have ceased to be relevant. This is in stark contrast to Satanic Temple, who have national and international chapters where the foundation of the chapter is the community building, from which all of our activities stem. So, am I saying that Church of Satan isn't a religion because they don't build communities? No. I think they are the exception to the rule, as pretty much all other religions put community at the heart of what they do, but they are still a religion. And I'm sure they don't mind being the exception, given their status as the alien elite. Deeply held beliefs, well, I would point to the Church of Satan 9 satanic statements, and for Satanic Temple, we have the 7 tenets. Philosophy, there is a huge emphasis in Satanism on reading. So if you're Church of Satan, you'll start with the writings of Anton LaVey and go from there. Satanic Temple have a reading list, but ultimately the attitude throughout Satanism is just read everything and really kind of educate yourself and really inform yourself. And so there's a whole wealth of satanic philosophy out there. So absolute iconography, really, Queen. Do I need to tell you that there is plenty of satanic iconography out there? And finally, ritual. Now, lots of people struggle with this, so we're going to spend a little moment on explaining what ritual is. So imagine you've just gone through a really bad breakup, right? And you have several photos of this person left, right? And you could just throw them in the bin. Or what you could do is you could take them out to the garden, and you could put them in a dish, and you could set fire to them. And maybe have some friends over, have some wine or something. Think about all the terrible things that they did to you, and how much better you are without them. And it becomes kind of a moment of closure for you. Now, in Satanism, we would call this a destruction ritual. It's an act of theatre, but instead of performing for an audience, you are performing for yourself. No, Satan isn't going to appear at any point here, but that's not the point. The point is introspection, catharsis, meditation. Because there are many Satanists who have had very traumatic things happen to them, as a lot of people have, and by creating a ritual, it's actually really helped them to process a lot of their emotions and really move on from. Why do you get a cake and put candles in it and sing happy birthday? You don't have to. You know, you don't have to do that. We do stuff like this all the time, we just don't call it ritual. Really what it's doing, you're putting it into a satanic framework that forms a wider part of your deeply held beliefs, a wider part of your religion. These are theatrical acts for ourselves and for our community. They're not really for outsiders. And that's really kind of a very good example of how most of what we do is internal. It's not external. Naturally, the media focuses on the sensationalist exterior. Nobody wants to watch an hour-and-a-half documentary about a bunch of people sat around talking about how meaningful the metaphor of Satan is to them. So that's what I mean. Well, I would, but most outsiders wouldn't. There is a misconception that Satanism is about getting attention for political causes, for, you know, that it's very outward looking. But honestly, you know, it is the vast majority of events are internal things that are about ourselves. Satanism, like any religion, is about providing people with the community, belief system, philosophy, iconography, and rituals. It's about providing people a framework for life, like a way of understanding the world and themselves in it. And that's what makes Satanism a religion. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel. See you next time.